Yes, I need someone to see 34th Year Road is getting mapped. There's a man passed out in the snow. Yeah, I don't know why he did that. I can put that. Okay. I know. Where's the blanket? I don't see blanket, Terry. Yes, I need some. John is 46 years old. I don't know. He got out of the car and it could be an hour. Carrie? I don't know. I did. I know, I'm on the phone with Andrew. I know, honey, I know.
All right, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. This is my channel, Crime in Court. I am Heather, and I'm really excited to have you here and share this case with you. It's very, the plot thickens every time you turn on the internet. So it's just been one of those cases where a lot has been said and done, and that's why we read through the court documents to actually see what is the truth and what is not. And that's what we're looking for when we examine these documents. So for this episode, welcome to episode 6, Inconsistent Statements. And we're going to be talking about the different witness statements from the witnesses from that night, which would be, we're going to read Brian Albert, Nicole Albert. They're the couple that own the home. And we're going to read Matt McCabe and Jennifer McCabe's interviews. And Jennifer McCabe interviewed twice with the police. So we're going to read both of those. And then Chris and Julie Albert, who are brother and sister-in-law to Brian and Nicole Albert, and they are the parents of Colin, the one that was in the house that they all said he was already out of the house, but then there was an admission that he was in the house, but he left before John and Karen arrived, and yada yada. I don't know. There's been back and forth about that, so we'll just read through the documents and see what they say. And then finally, we're going to go through Ryan Nagel's interview, which is, remember, he is the brother of Julie, who is Brian Jr.'s friend who was over that day or that evening, and Ryan was sent a text or given a phone call or something at midnight to come pick up his sister. So let's dive in. So these are all, I've already redacted these. Hopefully I didn't miss any of the children's names or anything like that, or addresses or phone numbers. But these are all public documents, so I'm not really doxing anybody, but just saying I did already black out people's addresses and stuff. All right, so this is coming from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Trooper Michael Proctor wrote this, and he's sending this report to, or copying Lieutenant Tully, who is also involved. His name comes up in these, in the drama that is Canton also, so we'll talk about that. So this is the interview of Brian Albert, and done by Trooper Proctor. So let's get started. Number 1, on January 29th, 2022, at approximately 6:04 a.m., the Canton Police Department received a 911 call for a male party, John O'Keefe, discovered unresponsive of 34 Fairview Road. Canton Police, Fire, and EMS responded to the scene. Canton Fire and EMS were dispatched to 34 Fairview Road for an unresponsive male discovered outside in the snow, and CPR was in progress. Canton EMS transported the victim to Good Samaritan Hospital, where he was determined to be deceased. At the Waterfall Bar on Friday night, January 28th, the homeowner of 34 Fairview is Brian Albert. Brian arrived at the McCabe's house on Saturday morning, and agreed to speak with investigators. All right, so what did Brian have to say? Number 2. And now remember, these individuals should be looked at as potential witnesses if you're investigating a homicide of a Boston police officer. You're going to, common sense dictates that you're going to go into the home where he's laying, in front of the home that he's laying at. So you're going to most likely do at least like a wellness check inside, and look for any kind of foul play or any signs of a struggle or anything like that. Make sure that everyone's okay. But instead, this Trooper Proctor is interviewing Brian and his wife together, and they should be separated, and all of the people there should have been separated. And we do know that Brian also inserted himself into Jen McCabe's interview, which I'll get into, because remember, on the timeline, Brian Albert called right at that moment when, the same time that her interview was starting. So I think he just came on over. But there's no record of it necessarily. No one says specifically that Brian was in attendance, but I think he was. Anyways, all right. So Brian, the homeowner, and his wife, Nicole, arrived at the Waterfall Bar at approximately 10 p.m. to meet some friends. Brian only met John O'Keefe a few times and did not know Karen. Brian stated that John and Karen entered the bar. They appeared to be in a good mood, did not observe any arguing amongst the two or with anyone else. Remember, everyone says they were in good spirits. They didn't seem to be intoxicated. They were being affectionate with one another, and everyone was having a good time at the bar. No arguments, according to all of the people, all of the witness statements. So while speaking with John at the bar, Brian stated he did not appear to be intoxicated and did not speak with Karen. When Brian and Nicole left the bar to go home, John and Karen were still inside. So they're, again, distancing themselves from being with John and Karen right at this time when the bar closes. However, there's a witness statement somewhere that Brian's still talking to the people at the band, and that's why, or maybe it was Matt McKay, but that's why that they couldn't leave right away or something. I think it was Matt McKay, not Brian. Anyway, so when Brian and Nicole left the bar to go home, John and Karen were still inside. Brian stated he did not know John and Karen were coming to his house and were invited by Jennifer McCabe. Brian stated he would have welcomed them inside if they arrived, but did not know they were coming over. Brian stated he did not see a vehicle out front of his house, did not know John and Karen were outside, and did not hear any loud noises from the street. All right, plain and simple. So, Brian, see nothing, I heard nothing, I know nothing, nothing happened. And I think we might see the same thing from his wife, Nicole. And bear with me because all of these pages are different sizes here. So I'm going to zoom in and zoom out. All right, one more zoom. All right. So this is the witness statement of Nicole Albert, and this was taken by Sergeant Buchanan, not Sergeant Trooper. So we're going to kind of flip-flop between the two because both of them took statements. So here we are, and this was done on February 3rd. Just noting that there's a few days difference in when Sergeant Buchanan actually interviewed Nicole, the homeowner. All right, so on February 3rd, 2022, at approximately 5:20 p.m., Trooper Proctor and I traveled to 34 Fairview Road for a pre-scheduled interview with Nicole Albert at her residence. Through her investigation into the death of John O'Keefe, Nicole had been identified as a witness present with a group of friends at Waterfall Bar and Grill on January 28, 2022. Nicole is also the resident with her husband Brian, who invited some friends and family back to 34 Fairview Road in Canton following the bar closing for the night and was a witness to events inside the home. The following is a summary of information requested and provided by Nicole during that interview with Trooper Proctor and me. All right, next page. Why isn't it going? There we go. All right. Number 2. After being invited into the home by Nicole and her husband Brian, Trooper Proctor and I formally introduced ourselves and thanked the both of them for their time. Which I think this is funny because Trooper Proctor is like family friends with the Alberts, so why did they have to introduce themselves? Maybe Buchanan didn't know that? Or I don't know. Nicole began by saying that she does not know Karen and had never met her prior to the 28th of January. She had met John O'Keefe once or twice in a social setting. Nicole sharing that she was aware that John had recently moved near her sister's home and only knows him as Kay's uncle. On the night of January 28th, Nicole stated that she met her sister Julie, daughter Tristan, and her boyfriend out at dinner at approximately 7:30 p.m. So right there, it's a huge error where it says her daughter Tristan because her daughter is Caitlin and Tristan is the boyfriend. So did Buchanan make a mistake in his statement, in his report, or did he purposely put a different name to distance themselves even further from this event when John O'Keefe was passed out on their lawn and they were just trying to deny it? All right, so at approximately 9 p.m., Jen and Matt McCabe met the Nicole and Julie at the bar. That's what it says. At the bar, and then at approximately 10 p.m., Brian came out after his return from New York. So, Brian Albert Sr. Whoops. Brian Albert Sr. is, we're assuming, away up until that moment at 10 p.m. when he arrives there, because they tell us he's returning from. This is according to Nicole's statement, and this is the first time that I'm hearing that Brian came and met them returning from New York. So I don't know if he had business or what he was doing. I don't know. All right, number 3. At approximately 11 p.m., Nicole remembered that John and Karen came into the bar and were positioned on the opposite end of the high top table the group was occupying. So at approximately 11 p.m. of what day? She's remembering that at 11 p.m. they were at this high top table. Okay. So Nicole recalled John coming over once and asking if they wanted anything from the bar. Nicole stated that John was wearing jeans, sneakers, and a hat. And I just want to point out that not too many people are actually pointing out that he was wearing a long sleeve gray sweatshirt or sweater, because that's important information to know when we're looking at the injuries on his arms. Because I'm going to put in the description here the video link to attorney Melanie Little's stream, where she had a dog expert on, and they talked about the cuts on John's arms and how he's a dog expert and he's seen I'm exaggerating, millions of bites. He's seen more bites than any person's fair share. And he recognizes the injuries on John's arms as shallow bite marks, and it's because possibly he was wearing long sleeves and the dog couldn't get a good grip, and it was most likely not a trained police dog for a number of reasons. Watch the stream. It's an incredible stream. So I will link that in the description. Go be sure to check that out after you finish this. All right, so yes, she doesn't say anything about him wearing long sleeves. I just wanted to point that out, but I think somebody does here. At approximately midnight, Nicole stated that she left the waterfall and was met at her home by her sister Jen McCabe, brother-in-law Matt McCabe, and husband Brian. All right. So she's saying the same thing. They left at midnight. Nicole went on to say that all the guests left her home an hour later at approximately 1 a.m. on the 29th. So she says 1 a.m., but we have phone evidence that, geodata that has Jen McCabe still at that house up until 1:30, 1:40 or something like that. So we do know that it's a little bit later than that. Number 4, later on, during the morning hours of January 29th, 2022, Nicole stated that she was still in bed with her sister Jen when her sister Jen came into the room and shared with Nicole what had transpired outside, and that John was deceased on the edge of her property by the street in the snow. Nicole stated that she never left her home, and by the time she came downstairs, Canton Fire Department must have transported both John and Karen from the scene. Well, isn't that convenient? She doesn't wake up until John's gone, and she doesn't hear the ambulance or the EMT or any of the commotion or all of that screaming that Karen was doing, which you just heard on the phone call. So they both, Nicole and Brian, didn't hear anything, didn't see anything. They know nothing. All right. That's their stance. Number 5, according to Nicole, there were no fights, arguments, or altercations at any time during the night between anyone present at Waterfall or her home at 34 Fairview Road in Canton. Nicole stated that everything was fine and she remembered John talking to her sister Jen at the bar. Nicole did not observe any injuries on John while he was present at the bar. Nicole shared that her and Brian walked out of the waterfall prior to John and Karen, and that the two were still at the bar at at that time. So when they left, John and Karen were still there. When asked about the utility box, and this is strange, and I'm not sure exactly why this is in the report, but this sentence just kind of sticks out to me. What do you guys think about this? Let me know in the comments. When asked about the utility box at the edge of her property near the flagpole where John was found, Nicole stated that it had been open and slightly damaged for a long time prior to January 28th, 2022. Do you think that somebody was trying to say that maybe he fell into it, or like he hit his head on it or something? I don't know. Or there was an argument that took place and it got damaged by John's head or something. I don't know. Like, I don't know why that sentence is there. If you guys have some thoughts, please let me know. All right, so number 6, directing her attention to her home following the waterfall, Nicole stated that she did not hear any arguments or noises coming from outside of her home, and that neither John nor Karen came into the home at any point. Nicole went on to say that she was not even aware that her sister Jen had even invited John and Karen into the house following the waterfall. Like, to me, that totally sounds made up. I don't know. Like, I wasn't even aware of it, or, I don't know. Like, I didn't even know they were coming. I had no problem that they were coming, but we never saw them. That's kind of how I feel. Like, they're just throwing that out there some more to distance themselves, and I feel like it's fake, but that's my intuition telling me that. All right, without having any information to share with Trooper Proctor, additional information to share with Trooper Proctor and me, we thanked Nicole for her time and concluded the interview. Signed, Sergeant Buchanan, who is with the Massachusetts State Police. Both Trooper Proctor and Buchanan are with state police. Oops. All right. This can be zoomed into. All right, we're going to get to Matt McCabe. What did he tell police? So this is Jen McCabe's husband, and it's not very long. Oh, wait. I just lost it. Where'd it go? Oh, here. Sorry. All right, here. So this was taken by Proctor. Okay, so Proctor interviewed Matt McCabe, and again, this was given to Detective Tully. So number 1, I'm not going to read this sentence again because he repeats it, but it's just, it's like the background. So they arrived for a male who was unresponsive at that address. All right. So number 2, Matthew has known John for approximately 8 years and met Karen Reed a handful of times. He did not know of any medical issues John may have had. Matthew and his wife, Jennifer, arrived at the Waterfall Bar at approximately 9 p.m. on Friday, January 28th. Matthew stated they went to the bar to have some drinks and food with friends. Matthew stated John and Karen entered the waterfall by themselves, and John was wearing a baseball hat with a curved visor. Matthew did not observe any arguing amongst John and Karen or with anyone else inside the bar. Matthew stated Karen was consuming a clear liquid, which he believed to be a vodka drink. As the night was winding down, Matthew went over to speak with a band. So it was Matthew who went over to speak with a band as everyone in the bar was leaving. Matthew stated John and Karen left before him, and the only people left inside the bar were the 4 band members and himself. Okay, so Matt is last person in the bar besides the band members. He's saying John and Karen already took off. They left the bar, the inside area of the bar. They might still be on the premises walking, but at least he didn't see them there, is what he's saying. All right. Matthew stated John and Karen left before he was the only person in the bar. Matthew left and got into his vehicle while Jennifer was was waiting for him and heard her call John to invite him to Brian Albert's house. So remember, John texts Jen where to. She gives him the address, and then they talk on the phone because John wants more specific directions than just the address. All right, so that's the phone call that Matt McCabe is observing there. Number 3. While at 34 Fairview Road, Matt stated he observed a big, dark SUV parked to the right of the house, and Matthew stated he was making these observations from the front door. Again, are he and Jen just standing at the front door waiting and watching? I don't know. And if Matt got there after, that brings up the point that why is Matt there at the house already if Matt left the bar afterwards? After John and Karen left, why is Matt already at the house? How did he get there so fast? And he standing at the door waiting and trying to wait and observe. This makes me question the validity of this. All right. So Matthew stated he looked out the front window and observed the same big dark SUV had moved to the other side of the property approximately 15 to 20 feet. So as you remember, Brian Nagel came and she gave Ryan Nagel's friend who was driving the area in front of the driveway, and she moved up so that they had so that they could get out of the car. Matthew was not sure how long the vehicle was outside, but did not hear any loud noises or screaming from inside. Matthew stated both times he observed the vehicle on the street. The headlights were facing towards Chapman Street. Matthew stated he observed tire tracks in the snow on the street in front of the house. So remember, he's saying that Matthew described them as a V pattern. So he's stating that she made a 3-point turn, and that's when according to the Commonwealth, for their first initial theory was that she made a 3-point turn and hit him, and that's what did it. But when someone created a YouTube video about how it would be the wrong headlight that was cracked, and it would have been, it didn't make sense. They changed their theory to she rammed into him going like 24 miles an hour in reverse, which incidentally is the exact amount of miles per hour that her alerts and her notifications on her Lexus would not alert her to somebody in the back. So that was one of their theories. I think they've changed it again since then. I don't know. I'm trying to get you guys caught up to where we are right now because stuff is still unfolding, so we got to get there. All right, so Matthew stated both times he observed the headlights. Okay, he saw the V. He saw the V. Matthew stated the tire tracks went from the curb in front of 34 Fairview towards the neighbor across the street and then back towards the curb. The pattern of the tracks were consistent with making a 3-point turn. Matthew stated he did not see these tracks prior to the big black SUV. Before it's a dark SUV, now it's a black SUV arriving outside of the home. He didn't see those tracks before, and that is signed by Trooper Proctor. And let's see. And zoom. Ouch. Whoops. Wrong button. One more. I hate how these all are different sizes. All right, so this is from Michael Proctor. He took this statement from Jen McCabe, and this is her first statement. She's going to have a second statement, and somebody else took the second statement, so I'll point that out in a little bit. So from Michael Proctor to Brian Tully, subject Jennifer McCabe. I'm going to not repeat this again because he says the same thing. And then, so number 2, Jennifer and her husband, Matthew McCabe, arrived at the Waterfall Bar in Canton Center at approximately 9 p.m. on Friday, January 28th. At the Waterfall, they met a group of friends for some drinks, food, and watched a live band. And now, I just want to point out real quick here, pay attention to Jen's timeline. It's pretty much the timeline that the state has adopted. They've taken her word as gold, and they're pretty much using the witness statement of Jennifer McCabe as their case. So, in my opinion, that's kind of what it seems like. And she's not a reliable witness to me. So, anyways, where was I? At approximately 11 p.m., John O'Keefe and Karen Reed entered the bar and grill from C.F. McCarthy's bar. Jennifer and John have been friends for a long time and met Karen when the two started dating 2 years ago. John walked into the waterfall wearing a baseball hat, jeans, and sneakers. Jennifer observed Karen walked into the bar holding a drinking glass with a vodka mixed drink inside. She left C.F. McCarthy's with Jennifer period. Okay. Who did she leave C.F. McCarthy's with? That's not clear. Jennifer stated there were no arguments amongst Karen and John or anyone else inside the waterfall. Jennifer stated John and Karen did not appear to be overly intoxicated when they arrived. So they weren't drunk when they arrived at the waterfall bar, and people said the same as they left, that they didn't appear to be intoxicated. So as the band was cleaning up, Brian Albert invited everyone back to his house at 34 Fairview Road, Canton. As everyone began to leave the waterfall, Jennifer observed John and Karen leave together. So this is, so Jennifer saying she saw them leave. She watched Karen and John leave the bar together. However, we do know from video surveillance that Karen left the bar with two females and not with John next to her. He left the bar a minute later. So who were the two females that she was with? If it wasn't Jen, then it had to be Nicole and Julie, and they said that they already left by 10, or by 12. Sorry, 12. So it's just fishy. It seems fishy to me. All right. John texted Jennifer at approximately 12:14 a.m. asking where to. Jennifer responded to John's text with the address 34 Fairview Road. Jennifer spoke with John at 12:14 and provided him the address. At 12:18, John called Jennifer to inquire where exactly the house was on Fairview Road. Number 3. While at Fairview Road, Jennifer observed, okay, so they're leaving after John and Karen. But yet Jennifer and Matt are at 34 Fairview before John and Karen ever get there. And just waiting for them and looking out the window and being able to verify that they never showed or never came in the house. But because they were standing there with binoculars looking out the window the whole time. Maybe. Possibly. I don't know. All right, so the black SUV did not pull into the driveway, but parked on the street by the entrance of the driveway. Jennifer observed the black SUV parked out front and texted John, "Hello, pull up behind me." At 12:31, Jennifer texted John again. Oh, at 12:31, she texted me. 12:31. Okay, so at 12:31, she texted him, "Hello, pull up beside me." Or behind me. Jennifer then texted John again at 12:40 saying, "Hello, where are you?" So at that point, Karen's already practically home and no sign of John. John's not answering. So I think it happened super fast. Whatever it is, it happened fast because John can't answer the text from Jennifer. So when Jennifer sent the last text to John, she observed the black SUV drive away and assumed Karen and John went home. Now remember, she's saying that Karen and John left around like 12:45 or something like that. I can't remember what it was on the timeline, something around 12:45. But Karen was already practically home by then, and she was leaving the voicemail for John when she was walking out of, in the garage, walking out of the car into the house. So, anyways, when Jennifer sent the last text to John, she observed the black SUV drive away and just assumed they went home. Jennifer stated John did not reply to any of her text messages. Jennifer stated she first observed the vehicle parked on the street by the driveway facing in the direction towards Chapman, and then observed the vehicle travel along the road towards the left side of the property in the area of where John was discovered in the morning. Jennifer and her husband left the residence at approximately 1:30 a.m. See, now they're saying 1:30, and went home. All right. At approximately 4:53 a.m. on January 29th, Jennifer received a call from John's niece, Kay. Karen was on the phone hysterical looking for John. Karen told Jennifer that she went home alone last night and last saw John at the Waterfall bar. Jennifer had to correct Karen and told her that they left the Waterfall bar together and went to 34 Fairview Road. And this is incorrect. This is incorrect. She did not see them leave together because we have video surveillance of Karen leaving the bar with 2 females. So I think someone's lying. Sorry. This case makes me angry. All right, so she's trying to gaslight Karen to thinking that she hit John. Jennifer told Karen to come to her house on Country Lane and they will go look for John together. Karen arrived at Jennifer's house in her black Lexus SUV. Jennifer stated she drove Karen's car back to John's house where Carrie Roberts met them. So they all meet up at John O'Keefe's house. Karen brings her Lexus back there with with Jen McCabe driving. She met at Jen's house. So Jen drives the car because Karen's hysteric, and Carrie arrives at John's house and meets them there, and then the 3 of them go off driving together, Carrie driving, the 3 of them. All right. Jen McCabe says, while driving back to John's house, Karen stated to Jennifer, could I have hit him? Did I hit him? Karen also told Jennifer about a broken taillight on her black SUV. Once Karen, Jennifer, and Carrie arrived at John's house, they looked at the broken taillight. Jennifer stated she observed a broken/cracked right taillight to Karen's SUV. So remember, it was just described as cracked, and then it was described as cracked and shattered, and then shattered and missing pieces, and now there's a picture of it and like the whole thing where the whole what is it called, like the casing where the headlight sits, the whole thing is missing all of the headlight, so like all of the pieces. So it seems like it's plausible that something happened to the taillight after Karen gave it over to police, or they towed it from her. All right, so number 5. Jennifer and Karen got into Carrie's vehicle to go look for John. Karen was in the back seat and Jennifer sat in the front seat. Passenger seat. Jennifer described the weather at this time as snowing heavily. Jennifer stated the first place that they went to look for John was 34 Fairview Road. They traveled down Chapman Street and took a right turn onto Fairview. Just prior to the front yard at 34 Fairview is a group of trees on the left side of the road. Immediately passing the group of trees, Karen stated, I see him. Jennifer stated that with the heavy snow, her and Carrie could not see John and did not know what Karen was talking about. And I call bull on that, but the 3 exited the vehicle. Carrie began wiping snow off John. Jennifer called 911 and Karen laid on top of him for warmth and stated, oh my God, did I hit him? So let's stop right there. You guys just heard the 911, which was not the official 911 call that's been released because they haven't released that yet, but it's the recording of John from John's voicemail. And Nowhere in that point did I hear Karen screaming, did I hit him? I must have hit him. All I heard her screaming was, he's cold, help. And she's screaming like Jen and Carrie. She's screaming their names for help. And at one point you can hear her say, he's freezing. And like, it's so heartfelt and just heartbreaking to listen to. And then you've got Carrie and Jen who are just, ho hum, it's just another day, just another cop cover up. I don't know. It just, I hate, like, I try to be unbiased, but I've looked at all of this information and I've really delved into this case. So I have an opinion at this point. I like to look at cases from an unbiased perspective, but at this point I have an opinion and I'm going to share it. So I apologize if you guys disagree or don't like it. I don't mind if you don't like it. If you don't like my opinion, that's okay too. If you disagree, tell me in the comments why you disagree and let me know. And then we can have a civil conversation about it. But no trolls here. Okay, respect and peaceful conversation all around. We trust and love everybody here. Okay. So, whoops. Where was I? Travel down Chapman just prior to the front yard. The meeting passing the trees. They didn't know what she was talking about. John was discovered on the left side of the property, the area where Karen's SUV was last seen earlier that night, with approximately 6 inches of snow covering him. So, 6 inches of snow. I don't know if they got that much snow. Like I said, this has been hotly contested how much snow they had actually gotten within that period of time and how much snow would have been covering him if he had been laying out there for those hours. So, but I still say that there is no way that him and his clothes and his shoes and that nobody could see him. There's no way that the snow could have covered him and been completely covered by snow. There's actually local people probably know Tom CPU. You could follow him on YouTube. He is a follower of this case and these trials. And he just did an experiment where he laid some shoes out in the snow and let it snow on them and came back in a few hours and you can still see their shoes. They're not completely covered. You can still see shoes. So it's just one of those things like, okay, I don't know. Hard to believe 6 inches covering him. Jennifer stated that Karen began mouth to mouth, and when she discovered John's blood on her face, she said, "Oh my God, do I have my period?" This is the dumbest. If you're gonna lie to the police, this is the dumbest lie. Like, why would Karen even think that or say that? That makes no sense. I'm sorry, I don't like to call people dumb, but Jen McCabe, that was dumb. All right. Using a cell phone application called Life 360, Jennifer was able to provide the following times, and we're supposed to trust her. 5:39 a.m., Karen arrived at the McCabe's residence. 5:46 a.m., Jennifer, Karen, and Carrie arrive at John O'Keefe's house, and 5:53 a.m., the three leave John O'Keefe's house, and 6:04 a.m., they discovered John outside of 34 Fairview Road. So again, we're getting the timeline. The Commonwealth's timeline and statement of case is coming a lot from Jennifer McCabe's witness statements. And now this is the second statement from Jennifer McCabe, which was done a few days later. As you can see, it was done on February 1st, 2022. And it was done by Trooper Kathleen Prince, who, it's about the first time we hear of her. Trying to zoom in more. Why is this so slow? Wow, okay, load. There we go. Sorry. Being a little slow today. All right, so we have Jennifer McCabe's statement. On February 1st, 2022, I, along with Trooper Connor Keefe, went to whatever lane in Canton to speak to Jennifer McCabe concerning the investigation into the death of John O'Keefe on January 29th. The following is a summary of what Miss McCabe told us. Number 2. Ms. McCabe stated that on Friday, January 28th, 2022, she and her husband, Matt McCabe, had been at the waterfall in Canton. Jen said that John and Karen came into the waterfall around 11 p.m. Jen said that she knows John O'Keefe because her daughter and John O'Keefe's niece, Kay, are friends. She said that she had come... Why is this being all weird now? Stop it. She said that she had come to know Karen through John because the two were dating. Jen said that John had encouraged Jen said John encouraged Jen and Karen to become friendly because Jen has multiple sclerosis, or MS, and Karen had been diagnosed with MS as well. So John and Karen had been at C.F. McCarthy's before they came into the waterfall. Jen noticed that Karen had a mixed drink in a clear glass in her hand that she had brought over from C.F. McCarthy's. So they're saying, it's being so slow now. So they're saying that everyone's trying to say that she brought her drink over from C.F. McCarthy's in her coat. Number 3, at the end of the evening, Jen said that she and her husband were planning to go to her sister's house because it was her nephew, Brian Albert Jr.'s birthday. Jen said that she asked Karen and John if they wanted to come along, and they said that they would. The Alberts live at 34 Fairview Road. Jen said that John had texted her at 12:14 a.m. to get the address. Jen said that she spoke with John on the phone to explain where the house was. She said that she remembers providing him with directions, specifically telling him to drive past B's house on the right. Jen said that John would know where B lives as she is a friend of Kay. Number 4. Come on. Why is this being so slow here? It's just a PDF. All right, number 4. Jen said that while she was at the house, someone said that there was a car outside. Jen looked out the front door of the house, and so Jen's not stating that she was standing there in front of the window the whole time, like she said in other statements, but now she's saying someone told her that there was a car outside. So who told her? She didn't say. Jen looked out the front door of the house and saw the car. She assumed it was John and Karen. She said that she did not notice what kind of car it was. Jen said that she is not good at identifying cars and was not able to provide a description of the car. She noticed that the vehicle was facing the outside direction of how it would have been if they had followed the directions provided earlier. So apparently she's saying she gave directions and they must have gone in the wrong direction because the car was facing the opposite direction she gave them. I don't know. Something along those lines. So she noticed it was facing the opposite direction. Jen then texted John at 12:21 a.m. Are you here? She texted John again at 12:31 a.m. and told him to pull behind her vehicle. She looked out the window a little while later and noticed that the car was further away from the house, closer to the neighbor. At 12:40 a.m., she texted again and said, "Hello, where are you?" There was no response from John. Jen said that her phone shows a call from her phone to John around that time, but she thinks that she dialed him by accident when she was putting her phone in and out of her pants pockets. So she's got a lot more details this time around. She's adding more details that are like just unnecessary details. The next time that she looked out the window, the car was gone. She did not think anything of it and thought that they just decided not to come in. So your friend who you've been texting and calling, you just think nothing of it when you can't get a hold of him. The next time that she looked out the window, the car was gone. She didn't think anything of it and just decided that they they decided not to come in. Jen said that she and her husband were at the house from around 11:45 a.m. to around 1:30. She said that she and her husband drove two of her nephew's friends home, and they went home. So that was Sarah Levinson and, gosh, I can't remember the other person's name that they drove home. Now it's escaping me. But, so they, I'm trying to get this page to move, and it's like not going. Okay, here. So at least her statements are kind of consistent with one another, but they're inconsistent with the timeline of events and just what we know of the case. So it's kind of fishy to me. Number 6, Jen said that when Karen showed up at her house at 5:30 a.m., she went outside and started to drive Karen's car to John's house. She said that they got to John's house around 5:45 a.m., shortly after Carrie arrived. They looked in John's house to make sure he was not there. The three decided to all get into one vehicle to look for him. They took Carrie's car. Jen said that Karen was saying things like, "Could I have hit him? Look at the crack in my tail light. There is a crack in it." So she's trying to say, because Karen brought up the crack tail light. I don't even know how she would have known that there was a crack if she did it right then when she was leaving. But if she brought it up, Jen is trying to like implicate that the crack has to do with her hitting him. So this is coming from Jen. Jen said that she did notice damage to the taillight. Jen said that Karen was so hysterical and was saying so many things that Jen did not think that Karen actually hit him. Karen was also saying things about him possibly being with old girlfriends. Jen said that they probably got on the road around 5:53 a.m. to go look for John. Carrie was driving. Karen was in the back and Jen was in the passenger seat. They pulled down to Fairview from Chapman Street. Jen said that they were approaching the 34 Fairview house, and Karen said, "Pull the effing car over, there he is." Jen said that she did not notice him, but Karen did. Again, they're trying to distance themselves from the finding of John too, because they don't want to put themselves in the mix. So Carrie stopped in the middle of the road, and Karen jumped out of the car and went to him. Jen said that John was in the area of where she had last seen the vehicle night prior. Jen said that he was on the lawn, and there was a coating of 6 inches of snow on him. Karen threw herself on top of him. He was lying on his back, and his phone was on the ground underneath him. So that's a new detail that we didn't know. Well, we knew, but we didn't know until now that his phone was lying underneath him. And why Jen McCabe knew that, I don't know. Jen said that she called 911. They attempted CPR, and then the ambulance and police arrived. Jen said that Karen was very hysterical. And we know that from all the police reports too, that she was screaming, and we hear it in the call that I played at the beginning of the stream. All right, so Jen went over to Karen, and when she was in the car, Jen observed Karen to have blood on her hands and face. Karen was holding her hands up and saying, "I have my period." Again, Jen, that doesn't make sense. That's dumb. All right. Jen said that she told Karen that it was not her blood and that it was John's blood from doing CPR. Jen also stated that while her and Karen were in the back of the car, Karen was yelling and screaming one moment and then completely calm the next. Jen said that they prayed the Our Father together. Karen then immediately yelled at John 2 times to Google how long do you have to be left outside to die from hypothermia. Jen was unsure if Karen, was brought from the scene by ambulance to the hospital. So she's trying to cover her Google search here in her witness statement, in my opinion. She's trying to cover that Google search at 2:27 a.m. that says, how long does it take to die in the cold? She's trying to cover that and say, Karen made me search it. And the Commonwealth has a way of just talking away the fact that it was done at 2:27 when they hadn't found John yet. They just ignore that fact. Anyways, number 8. Jen was asked about what Karen and John were like when they were at the water club. She said that she did not notice any fighting. She had known them to be together as a couple for about 2 years, and to her knowledge, they love each other. She said that she did not think that there were any issues between them. Jen said that the only thing that she can think of is once Karen made a comment that if there were not any kids, they would not have anything to fight over. Trying to make it seem like they were fighting over the kids or something. Jen told Karen that was very normal. Jen was asked about their level of intoxication, and she said that they were both drinking but did not appear to be drunk. So again, corroborating that Karen did not seem to be overly intoxicated. It just seems strange to me. I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking about Jen McCabe, because I have a lot of thoughts about Jen McCabe. All right, so the next one is Julie and Chris Albert. So for some reason, they were interviewed at the same time together. And I'm not sure why. But we'll see what they have to say once the page is cooperating. All right, so on February 10th, approximately 5:30 p.m., Trooper Proctor and I proceeded to the address where Brian and where Chris and Julie live. Remember, Chris is the owner of the pizza shop that and the brother of Brian. Both Julie and Chris were present at the Waterfall Bar and Grill the night of January 28th, 2022, and then followed to Brian Albert's home in the early morning hours of January 28th, 2022. The purpose of the interview was to get their recollection of events both at the bar and then from 34 Fairview Road. The following is a summary of information exchanged between Julie, Chris, Trooper Proctor, and I. So, Sergeant Buchanan, Trooper Proctor, Julie, and Chris, they're all having one big interview together. And what date was this? Sorry, I want to scroll back up here and see. February 10th. They don't get interviewed until February 10th. Okay, so why are they not being interviewed until this much later? Following formal introductions, so here we go again, pretending we don't know each other. Julie Albert provided her cell phone number to be, and Chris Albert stated his cell phone number to be, blah, blah, blah. Both stated that it has been 4 to 5 years that they knew the victim, John O'Keefe, and only met Karen Reed once in a social setting prior to the 28th of January. So if John O'Keefe and Karen Reed were dating for 2 years, it's kind of odd to me that they would only see them, that they would have only seen her in like one social setting. But it's possible. I don't know. Julie told us that Karen was not her friend and only an acquaintance, and that John was her friend. Chris told us that he had never exchanged personal info with John prior to the 28th of January. Chris went on to say that earlier in the day, John came into D&E Pizza, which is his pizza shop, and his adopted son P came into the shop. Chris shared with us that he had plans to go to CF's or the waterfall later in the evening. Julie texted John that she was at the waterfall around 8:45 p.m., telling him to get down there. At 10:41, Julie sent the last text to John, and shortly after, John and Karen walked into the bar. All right, so they're saying Chris is the one that basically invited John to come out that night because he saw them at the pizza shop. So that is new information. Sorry, my throat gets so dry. All right. So number 3, Julie remembered that as John and Karen walked into the bar area, Karen pulled a drink out of her jacket and sat it onto the high top table. John offered to get Karen a new drink, but neither Chris nor Julie remember whether he followed through with that. Shortly after this, so again, they're like, people are trying to imply she was drinking a lot. We saw her with a lot of drinks, but we didn't see her intoxicated. So what is it? I don't know. Shortly after this, Julie developed a migraine and left the bar to go home, so she did not go to 34 Fairview Road. Chris stayed behind with the rest of the group for more drinks. Chris told us that he purchased a round of shots of Fireball whiskey for the group, but was not sure exactly who drank theirs and who did not. So it's interesting because this is like one of the first times that we have other people admitting, like, yeah, we were drinking, like doing shots and things. So everybody that night was drinking, not just Karen, not just John, everybody. Chris initiated a round of shots of Fireball whiskey. So we know that they were all drinking too, but nobody else's blood alcohol is ever looked at, which bothers me. So Chris told us John was drinking Bud Lights during the evening. And that also bothers me too, because if he was drinking Bud Lights, wouldn't he be drinking out of a bottle? I mean, come on. Or if he did pour it into a glass, most likely it was like a Stein or one of the tall pint glasses and not a cocktail glass, which we are told they find at the scene. So was it a cocktail glass of the same kind of glass? Was there ever any kind of forensics done on it? Is it the same kind of glass that they have at the waterfall bar, or is it a glass that came out of the home of the Alberts? Nobody knows because nobody tested it. But anyways, so Chris stayed behind, gave him shots. Everybody was drinking. Chris told us John was drinking Bud Lights during the evening. Chris told us that John actually got Karen the same drink she brought in, which he assumed was vodka soda water. Number 4, Chris stated that when he walked out of the Waterfall Bar and Grill, he remembers John and Karen walking in the opposite direction of his path. And he suspects that he walked right and the couple walked left onto Washington Street. So he's saying they walked in different directions. So Chris recalled John being dressed in a baseball hat, gray sweatshirt, and jeans. So he's the only one that actually mentions the gray sweatshirt, because there is surveillance of him in a gray sweatshirt or sweater. So when asked about the drink that Karen brought into Waterfall, Julie told us that it was taller, cylindrical shaped glass with a lime in it, while Julie and Chris agreed on that Karen was not shit-faced, as they call it, and that John is always reserved. Julie told us that jokingly, John and she had a conversation about a block party since the Alberts moved away, and that he, John, was not intoxicated and Karen was, quote, totally herself. Whatever that means, because you don't know her. How do you know Karen was totally herself if you don't know her? There's just so many inconsistencies in these statements. It bothers me. According to both Julie and Chris, nothing about their behavior indicated that either one was drunk or even buzzed. Both had a conversation perfectly fine. When asked, Julie and Chris stated that there were no arguments between anyone present at the bar in general, but specifically no issues between Karen and John. Again, no problems with Karen and John. So why would she I don't know. All right, so Julie told us that she was asleep at 4:55 a.m. on January 29th, 2022, when her phone woke her up, and it was Jen's missed call, and that if is how she found out about John dying. Okay, that was written badly. So Julie finds out from Jen calling her. When asked, both Julie and Chris told us that John did not have any injuries to his face during the evening at the waterfall, to include tears and rips in his clothing. And that's interesting too, because the defense has yet to get their hands on the clothing to test it, or to get their hands on any kind of samples to test it. Nothing's been tested in this case that could potentially help the defense. Like, was there dog DNA on John's clothing or his arm? Did they take swabs of his arm? Was there DNA, saliva from a dog? Like, these are things that we should investigate, and it's not being done. And the defense wants to, and is not getting the items turned over from the Commonwealth because they're objecting to everything. So it makes me wonder, why are they fighting so much? Oh man, I just lost my place. Sorry guys. Yeah, so it bothers me. There's a lot of inconsistencies. So let me know if you guys are finding more consistencies that I'm missing, or if you find more inconsistencies, let me know. If there's other things that I didn't point out. You know, this case is so mind-boggling and annoying that it's even going to trial, because yeah, anyways. All right. So number 4, did I read that? Yeah, totally herself. How is she totally herself? They weren't buzzed. Both held a conversation perfectly. Julie told us that she woke up from Jen's missed call, and that's when she found out about John dying. When asked, both Julie and Chris told us that John did not have any injuries to his face during the evening of the waterfall, to include tears and rips in his clothing. So we just, sorry, we read things over again, but it's good to hear it and let it absorb. When asked to list everyone present at their table, Julie and Chris had mentioned everyone previously accounted for. Additionally, Chris mentioned a Greek couple that was at the end of their table. That's another couple. They don't, I can read their statements if you guys are interested. They don't really say a whole lot more past, you know, they were having a good, John and Karen at the bar were having a good time and being, you know, loving with one another. No fights. They didn't seem intoxicated. It basically just corroborates the same thing. So I don't think I need to read it, but if you guys are interested, I can definitely read their statements. Let's see. Trooper Proctor since has positively identified the two and scheduled an interview with them. So he does go and interview the couple, the Greek couple from that night. Without having any more information to provide, Trooper Proctor and I concluded our interview of Julie and Chris Albert. We thanked them for their time and left their residence without incident. Signed, Sergeant Buchanan. All right, so last one we're going to read is Ryan Nagel's statement to Sergeant Buchanan. And remember, he's picking up his sister Julie, and he's got no skin in the game. He's got no friends in this. He's got no close family ties to any of the people here, other than Julie Nagel, who was leaving for the evening. All right, so number 1, I'm not going to read this whole thing because, again, that's repetitive from what Trooper Proctor wrote in his other statements. I'll just say, additionally, a male party was identified as being in the area the night prior and possibly could have witnessed the victim arriving in the area. So that person is that said male was identified as Ryan Nagel, who was contacted by his sister Julie Nagel asking for a ride home while visiting with her friend Brian Albert at 34 Fairview. Ryan came into the Norfolk District Attorney's office for a pre-scheduled interview on Monday, February 7th at 2:35 p.m. Okay, so he went into the district attorney's office for his interview with police. But again, this is days later, February 7th. So why these people weren't identified sooner and interviewed, I don't know. But all right. So Ryan came. The following is a summary of information requested and provided by Ryan during the interview with Trooper Proctor and myself, Buchanan. So Ryan confirmed that he was contacted by Julie requesting a ride home. At the time, Ryan was with his friend Richie D, who was driving his gray in color Ford F-150 pickup truck with Ryan seated in the front passenger seat and Ryan's girlfriend Heather M seated in the back passenger compartment. Ryan recalls Richie driving down Cedar Crest from the direction of the Kennedy Elementary School. As the F-150 approached Fairview, Ryan remembers seeing a set of headlights of a mid-sized black SUV coming from the opposite direction of Cedar Crest. Subsequently, Richie yielded to the vehicle, allowing it to make a right turn onto Fairview as their F-150 then following them, making a left-hand turn onto Fairview. All right, so number 4, Ryan told us that Richie stopped the F-150 directly in front of the driveway belonging to 34 Fairview and remembers the black SUV stopping along the right-hand curb towards the left side of the property as you look at the home from the street. Excuse me. When asked, Ryan stated he did not observe any erratic operation by the SUV as it turned from Cedar Crest onto Fairview or at any point while in his presence. So no erratic driving. He doesn't see anything erratic. She doesn't drive crazy. She's not swerving. It doesn't seem like she's drunk. So everything seems normal. Ryan went on to say that their F-150 remained in front of the home for a period of time that was no longer than 5 minutes, in which his sister Julie came out of the home and asked if the three of them would like to come inside. Ryan refused the invite, so Julie, instead of going home with Ryan as she had originally intended, suddenly, about 15-20 minutes later, when they arrive there, she is just ready to continue her partying, and she wants to invite her brother and other friends into the party because they're having a good old time. But Ryan refuses the invite, and Julie stated that she wanted to stay a while longer and would most likely spend the night at 34 Fairview. So that's one comment. But in another area, we hear that she was going to find another ride home. So that we're not sure what she wanted at that point. She changed her mind a couple times, or she lied. I don't know. Seems like she changed her mind or she lied. One or the other. Or somebody's not saying the correct recollection. Anyways, Ryan refused the invite. Upon conclusion of their conversation, Julie retreated back inside the home, and Ryan noticed that the SUV pulled up a few feet to the far edge of the property line between 34 and the neighboring property where the flagpole was located, along some bushes. So Ryan stated that the SUV's driver did not appear to place the vehicle into park, as the rear brake lights were illuminated to include the third top center light as the initial positioning and after it had pulled off. So the headlights are illuminated red. She's got her foot on the brake light. He never sees the lights go out. So he's assuming her foot's on the brake, not in park. Which makes sense. All right, so Trooper Proctor asked Ryan if at any point, oops, I went too far. If at any point he heard screams, yelling, or any noise coming from the black SUV while he was on Fairview, to which he stated no. So again, no screams, no yelling, nothing. Ryan added that as Richie pulled away from 34 Fairview, their F-150 drove past the black SUV, at which time Ryan observed the interior light on and a Caucasian female operator seated inside the vehicle holding the steering wheel at the 10 and 2, looking straight ahead of her. I don't know how, that is so descriptive that it really makes me believe that that is his memory and that is what happened. Ryan told us that he did not see anyone else inside the passenger compartment during his brief observations of the SUV as they drove by. Ryan did not see the SUV leave and did not note any damage to the vehicle as he remembers. So no broken taillight. He looked at the taillights because he noticed that they were all on and lit. And he didn't see a crack or anything. No missing, no damage, no shattered pieces. And no John. More importantly, no John. John's not there. It's just Karen by herself in the car staring straight ahead. And she's sitting there waiting for John, and she's getting annoyed because she's thinking John forgot about her. So she's getting frustrated and ready to drive home. And Ryan sees this. What I want to know is, why didn't they interview Richie or Heather too? Because we don't have any interviews from them, but they were also in the car and they saw Karen's car. So why wasn't, I don't know, they should have been interviewed in my opinion too. If they weren't, that's a huge misstep on the police's part, on the troopers' part, because they were other witnesses that night. All right, to conclude, when asked, Ryan stated that it had just started snowing approximately half an hour prior and there was a coating of snow on the ground. While present in the area of Cedar Crest and Fairview, Ryan did not see any other vehicles operating besides the F-150 and the black SUV. So the car he was in with his friend and girlfriend and Karen's SUV are the only cars that he noticed while he was at Fairview. Without having anything further to provide about the evening, Trooper Proctor and I concluded our interview with Ryan. And that's signed by Sergeant Uri Buchanek. So that, my friends, is the conclusion of the inconsistent witness statements. To me, there's so many inconsistencies. There's so many things that I've pointed out that just got me screaming. Like, this just doesn't make sense. Make it make sense. So, what else are there other things that I'm missing here, guys? Are there things that are pointing to Karen's guilt that I'm missing? Are there things that are pointing to her innocence that I'm missing? What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.